Hey everyone, it's Chelsea here. Currently going on a brisk walk because that is the only activity I'm allowed to do while we're on all these medications.
I've got my ankle weights in place and my music's ready. So let's stop talking and do some walking.
So I figured why not tell you about testing and diagnosis.
Warning: the following video contains strong language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
So it all started with originally going to one female doctor that a friend had recommended their office, not that specific doctor, but their office. And she told me that I would get blood work done and then I needed to call on the third day of my period to come in and have an ultrasound done and some other blood work done. So already there, lots of blood work, right? So third day of my period comes and I go in to get this ultrasound and I'm standing there and I realize, wait a second, is this gonna be a vaginal ultrasound? I'm on my period. So they had put me in a room and told me to take off my pants and underwear and then come into this other room where they were gonna do the ultrasound. And all they give you is like this little sheet, like a paper, it's a paper sheet. It's not even like not like a cloth sheet that you would have in a bed, but like a thin paper sheet that was like completely see-through. So it's the typical like pelvic exam setup. So you put your feet in those wonderful, very comfortable stirrups.
Get a look down there, pop the hood, see what's going on. Vector beams on.
And scoot your ass down so it's almost falling off the table very comfortably.
You know what they say, right? You can never be too rich, too thin, or too far down on the table, so let's scoot ya. There we go.
Pretty much, there's like no like, hi, how are you? Like, no anything. There's just all of a sudden this giant dildo that the nurse shoves up your vagina. No, like, hey, let me buy you dinner first. Nothing like that. So she does the ultrasound. She starts like shouting out numbers to some other like nurse or tech that's in the corner of the room that I only assumed meant like my egg count, how many they were seeing, and then they looked at like the left ovary, the right ovary, and my uterus itself. The doctor wasn't there for that, so I didn't get a read or they didn't tell me what anything meant right away. I was told that once my, sorry, I'm like squinting, I'm gonna try to move for you. So that once my blood work and everything came back, they would call me and then we would set up appointments also to talk about results after John did his testing too. So that was that appointment. And then on another day during my cycle, can't remember exactly what day it was, maybe like closer to like after my period had finished, so maybe like the 10th day or something like that, they wanted me to come back for something called an HSG, which is a saline something histogram. I don't know, I know I'm a doctor, but I'm not an OB, so I don't really know what all these terms are. So they told me that this test is gonna cause a little bit of cramping and that I should take some Motrin first. I'm gonna sit on this bench, hopefully it's not too hot. So I take Motrin, go in for this. John comes in with me, luckily, for this test. He does work away from home like 3 days a week, so a lot of the stuff I've had to do alone. But he came to this test with me, and they bring you back to another room. Again, you're in the straddle position with your legs up in stirrups, and they ask me, oh, is it okay if medical students and residents are in on your procedure? Which you think, being a doctor, I'd be like completely okay with that because I was there at one point, but I don't want med students seeing my vagina and then like next week maybe they're on peds and they're my med students. Like, how weird would it be to like see someone's vagina and then see them in public like a week later and have to respect them? I don't know. So I said I'd be okay with the residents, but no med students. So they put me in the like spread eagle position again, and this time they take like a rubber tube and shove it up my vagina into my cervix and blow up a balloon, okay? Inside your cervix. Ow. Then, that's not it. They squirt saline inside your uterus and your fallopian tubes to make sure everything is patent, meaning open. Ooh, bug. Sorry. So she's like, okay, you'll feel like a slight cramp here. Slight cramp my ass. That shit hurt so bad. I was squeezing John's hand and like, I mean, I sat through it, but it hurt. So more testing for me, yay! So that was that test, and again, she didn't go over the results with us. She just kind of said like everything looked okay, but they'd go over everything in more detail after John had his test. So you're probably thinking at this point, like, what is the testing for men? What do they have to do? It's pretty simple. All they have to do is jerk off into a cup.
This piston-like motion sends a shockwave of energy throughout the body and the patented...
So John made his appointment, and I'm picturing him like going back into like a dark, dank room with like sticky magazines all over the place from other visits from men. But he assured me that this was not the case, that it was a small room, gave his sample, and then they go and they count the semen and see the counts and motility and all that stuff. So that's literally it for them. The guys go through an orgasm, and women, we get blood test after blood test, and ultrasound, vaginal ultrasound, and saline histogram, which hurts like hell. So that's the original initial workup, okay, before anything else is done. So after we do everything, we make an appointment to go over the results, and we sit down with this doctor, and she's got a smile on her face. I'm like, okay, everything is probably good, right? She's smiling. And I'm thinking, I had convinced myself that nothing was going to be wrong, that it was just probably bad timing. They were going to tell me to take Clomid or something, which is an oral medication that kind of just like increases your fertility. John, on the other hand, had convinced himself that it was going to be him, like that there was something wrong with his sperm. They go over the results. She's smiling, pulls everything up, and then proceeds to tell me that my FSH level is high, my anti-Müllerian hormone level is low. Still smiling, so I'm like, I don't really know what that means again. I don't remember any of this stuff. And that my follicle count is low. So after she goes over all that, without really explaining what any of it means, still smiling, she jumps over to John and she looks at his semen analysis. And his counts are fantastic, but he has low motility and it all sticks together and has abnormal morphology. But then she says to John, like, don't worry about this. I've seen plenty of couples get pregnant with semen that looks like this. Like, don't worry about it at all. This is no big deal. Still smiling. Then turns back to me and says, I have something called decreased ovarian reserve, which means I don't have very many eggs left, and that my levels, those hormone levels she talked about, put me at a decreased chance of having kids on my own, like really low. I think she said it was like an 8% chance of us having kids on our own. So at that point, she recommended IVF, and that I get genetic testing done. So I get more blood work that day, and we go home and kind of talk about our options. So that was kind of the workup, lots of fun for me, as you can see. Workup and our diagnosis. I will talk about what happens next in our next episode. So if you will subscribe below, leave us some comments, questions, thoughts, what you would like to know, what else I'm not covering, that would be great. And thanks for checking in.